Hello, my name is Jorge Nuno Silva, and I'll be talking a little bit about a game of my invention. Its name is Latin Erdős, and I chose the name, of course, because of the mathematician Paul Erdős, and also because of Latin squares. Latin squares are arrangements without any repetition in rows or columns. They were studied in the 18th century by Leonhard Euler, and besides looking good, they have applications in several domains. The most well known Latin square nowadays, I believe, is the common Sudoku. Well, I tried to invent a game for two as a Latin square, so using Latin square rules, so no repetition in rows and columns, last player winning, whoever fails to have a legal move loses. It's the common procedure for good abstract games, and I gave it a try in a 5 by 5 board. So the situation is the following. I have a 5 by 5 board, and I have 5 ones, 5 twos, 5 threes, 5 fours, and 5 fives. And now players alternate placing a piece in the board without repetitions in rows or columns. Well, this works well, seems to work well, and sometimes we even get the nice situation in which in one cell of the board no number can go because it would produce a repetition either on the row or on the column, and that would work perfectly according to my original idea. However, sometimes the board gets filled, and well, I could define as a victory for second, but it's a little bit boring this way. So I start analyzing the columns of a filled board. Uh, we have a sequence of five numbers, and I would like to give it to one of the players. Which one should own this column, for instance? Well, let's look at the numbers in the column, and let's look at directions B to A and A to B. Uh, B has an increasing sequence of length 2 and nothing else. I mean, no longer sequence of increasing numbers from B to A. However, A has a larger sequence, has a subsequence of length 4. So I think it should belong to A, and I think this is a nice criterion for the game. So here we need the theorem by Erdős that in any sequence of n squared plus 1 numbers, we get a monotone subsequence of length n plus 1. So for our case, it's perfect. So we have 5 cells in each column, so we are sure to have a subsequence of length 3, a monotone subsequence, either for A or for B. The proof of this theorem by Erdős, it's very interesting, it's very visual, and I'm going to just illustrate it. The general procedure is easy to understand from the example. Suppose I have 3, 5, 2, 4, 1 in this order. I start by putting 3 as the base of a column and first element of a row, and then I take the next number, 5, and because 5 is larger than 3, it can go on top of it. And next, I take 2. 2 cannot go on top of 5 because it's not larger than 5, so it goes to the right of 3. And now I do the same thing with 4. 4 cannot go on top of 5 because 4 is smaller than 5, but it can go on top of 2. And finally, 1 cannot go on top of any column, so it has to go on the rightmost position of the first row. And we see that we have a decreasing sequence of length 3 in the original sequence of 5 numbers. Well, So I think that this is a nice rule. Whoever gets an increasing sequence of length 3 wins the game. Well, it's not completely right because it can happen that both players have sequences of length 3 increasing from themselves to the opponent. So I need some ad hoc adjustment. And it's not very difficult. Um, I define the winner of the column is the player that first gets a 3 monotone sequence. And if they both get it at the same time, the column belongs to the one that is playing. Otherwise, it belongs to the one that first got it. So there are markers that we can use, and as the game develops, we mark the ownership of each field column. And like this, we have a game for two with no ties, which is very nice. And we can implement it with 3 degrees of the chance factor. We can go from a very random game to a completely abstract or mathematical game. So the first way of playing it reminds us of the common dominoes. We turn the pieces, the numbers, all with the backs up, and so you pick a piece, you look at it, and you place it wherever you want, if possible at all. So lots of chance here because you depend a lot on the piece you get. Another way of implementing is dividing the pieces in 2 sets and give 12 to one player and 13 to the other who starts. And now each one can choose the piece to play among the pieces that he's holding. So there is some chance, but there is room for some strategy as well. And finally, the completely abstract game. All the pieces belong to both players and they have their faces up. So when it's your turn, you pick one piece, the piece of your choosing, and you place it on the board, if possible, in a cell of your choosing. This is a very interesting game, and it can be played with pencil and paper, and someone even built some wood boards that are very fun to play. And I think that's all for today. I thank you very much for your attention.